Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. I hope the week's going well. I can't believe we're nearly in November now. Macro thoughts, very interesting, and it's an observation I've made myself and more intuitively in being on the wrong side of things in the middle of the night. Between the New York close and the start of trading in Tokyo, foreign exchange volumes dwindled to just 2% of peak turnover, according to ATA Group. The plunge in Britain's pound earlier this month shows what's at stake. At about 7 a.m. Singapore time, while London dealers were sleeping and those in New York were finishing up their day, sterling slumped more than 6% in just 2 minutes, reaching a 31-year low. It's always been a danger zone with respect to stop losses. Certainly, after this, people will think about it even more, said Anthony Hall, head of foreign exchange at UBS. If you think about how the structure of the markets are changing, how you would have executed orders and left stop losses in the past is no longer applicable today. The severity of the pound's drop suggests that algorithms triggered an avalanche of automatic sell orders, adding to the downward pressure on the world's fourth most traded currency. Movements like this recent pound crash will likely happen again at some point in time. Could not agree with that more. Or this, looking back, say 5 years ago, moves of this intensity were unheard of. Have a look at the tweet from Saharan, which shows you the liquidity drop-off in those hours. Aurelia, my last 2016 call to materialize Bund tantrum, better late than never. And that was the point I was making on the 12th of September in my piece where I quoted Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And I said a lot of risk calculations are based on value at risk. Essentially, you overlay a volatility measure over the portfolio, and you calculate how much money is on the line. Central banks have suppressed volatility. Therefore, in real terms, investors are now holding bigger positions at these current artificially suppressed levels. If volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse, or put it another way, and to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice, and she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the nightman. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. What is clear is that the fag end of this party, and I said there, German 10-year Bund yields turned positive for the first time since July. I like this photograph of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby, pink champagne on ice. And on the 12th of September, preempting Aurelia, I said, therefore, my second trade of the year, my first was to be long the yen from January, I think it's time to take that off, is to buy options on 10-year bonds, because this is going to pop, and when it pops, the wizardry won't work anymore, and at that moment, there is going to be one heck of a move. Home thoughts, I like this from Jamie McGeever, Descanse en Paz Capital. I'll leave you to decipher that Portuguese. I'm just James Elroy, the self-promoting demon dog. You call it swagger, I call it joie de vivre. I counted over 25 bears around the small Inuit whaling village. Some of them were absolutely enormous. The whole spectacle is quite surreal. It's David Yarrow. And then I like this house in Hawaii. It overlooks a golf course and the ocean beyond. Political reflections, and if that was not enough, he announced a new alliance. Philippines, China, and Russia is about to emerge. There are three of us against the world. Duterte replied to Xi Jinping, even as we arrive in Beijing close to winter, this is the springtime of our relationship. Duterte has blown up the pivot. Everyone was concerned whether he would chew gum when he went to meet the Japanese emperor. Prime Minister Abe also met with President Duterte of the Philippines on October 26. So he's become a key figure, but I think in part it was the fact that the US sort of did not back that pro-Philippine decision up that has made him change his bets. Hillary Clinton reacts after being asked how she was feeling on her 69th birthday as she departs Miami for Palm Beach. "I never had a failure," Mr. Trump said in one of the interviews, "because I always turned a failure into a success," glossing over the serial bankruptcies of his businesses in the 1990s. In an especially telling passage, Ivana recalls the first time she went skiing with Mr. Trump, who expected to outshine her. He had no clue that she was in fact accomplished on the slopes. So he goes and stops and he says, come on baby, she recalled. I went 2 flips up in the air, 2 flips in front of him, I disappeared. Donald was so angry, he took off his skis, his ski boots, and walked up to the restaurant. He could not take it. Only later did they retrieve his abandoned gear from the piste. Mr. Trump is meanwhile heard to brutally dismiss other men who in his mind have either slipped from their once high perches or embarrassed themselves publicly. One was Arsenio Hall, once a successful nighttime TV host, who had virtually vanished from view until Mr. Trump brought him on set for his Celebrity Apprentice series a few years ago. Dead as a doornail was his assessment of Mr. Hall. Dead as dog meat, he went on, showing disgust over empathy. Couldn't get on television. They wouldn't even take his phone call. He summoned similar disdain for a well-known Wall Street banker who got drunk at a charity event at the Waldorf Hotel and had to be carried out with all of Manhattan society and his peers in the financial world looking on. Mr. Trump does not drink. Update: Spain says Russia's cancelled Syria-bound warships fuel stop. But they came under tremendous pressure, the Spanish obviously. Pope Francis, the manager, surprising, secretive and shrewd. Father Ernest Simoni, an 88-year-old Albanian, was watching Pope Francis on television this month when, to his astonishment, he heard the pontiff mention his name. Francis announced that the simple, white-haired Roman Catholic priest who had spent many years in jail during Albania's communist dictatorship was to become a cardinal. It was the first that Simoni or any of the other 16 new cardinals named by Francis at the same time had heard of their elevation to the prestigious rank. I did not believe either my ears or eyes, Simoni told Reuters. The Pope said it, but I could not believe it. Can he be talking about another Ernest? I said to myself. More significantly, the Pope has also kept nearly the entire Vatican hierarchy in the dark about his decision, which he announced on October 9 to thousands of pilgrims. The episode illustrates how Francis has used his own distinct management style to try to shake up the church since his election in 2013. He's keeping the cards close to his chest as he tries to push through a progressive agenda to make the church more welcoming in the face of conservative opposition. I think Pontifex is as effective and subtle as Justin Trudeau. I have a very high regard of Justin Trudeau's capability to sort of navigate the new viral landscape effectively. Put up a photograph of the Pope, the one of Justin Trudeau, and another photograph showing the Calais jungle going up in flames. This is from World Post. Hemisphere is a secretive program run by AT&T that searches trillions of call records and analyzes cellular data to determine where a target is located, with whom he speaks, and potentially why. This has been in the public domain for a long time, I think. Let's move on to the currency markets. Let's see what's going on. Euro dollar, 109.06, dollar index 98.67. Japanese yen 104.61, Swissy 0.9942, the pound 122.15, The Australian dollar 0.7624, India rupee 66.895, South Korean won 1141.23, the Rial 314.06, Egyptian pound 887.90, and the South African rand softer post the budget 1392.80. Put up a chart of the dollar index. I've always had a year-end target of 100, though we got quite low at one point, but I held on to that target level, and I think we might just reach there before the end of the year. Euro dollar, I think definitely parity is now calling. We're at 109.07, but if I remember the very old charts, we could fall quickly to around 103. Canadian dollar, much softer. Where are we now? 133.85. My target is 140, but it whipsaw you left, right, and centre. Interesting piece on Bloomberg. Here's how Goldman Sachs lays people off. First plant layoff notice came in February. 43 people would lose their jobs. Second arrived 6 weeks later, increasing the cuts to 109 workers. Then a third in April for 146 more, and a fourth in June, 98. 3 more notices followed, including 20 dismissals announced last week. The plant in question, Goldman Sachs. Let's move on. Gold was last trading at 1268.42. Feels like it's running out of steam. I think we're going back to 1200. Use 1302 or something for a stop. Brent back below $50 a barrel. Have a look at Javier's chart. WTI 49.45, trading up marginally today. But I still think the trend is lower. Look at this. China's addiction to pork. They're introducing pork futures in the near term. And there goes the Mexican peso. Currency extending drop after Bloomberg poll shows Trump lead in Florida 45% versus Clinton's 43%. I just don't see him winning at this point in time. I agree with Paddy Power. Tata Sons former boss Cyrus Mistry says his group could see $18 billion in write-downs in a letter. A realistic assessment of the fair value of these businesses could potentially result in a write-down over time of about $18 billion, Mistry said in an email seen by Reuters. So plenty of drama over there. Sub-Saharan Africa, Zitamar News, Mozambique, bankrupt. Good afternoon. We wrote in May that the 3 controversial state-backed loans to Pro-Indicus, Amatum and MAM threatened to bankrupt Mozambique. That threat has now become reality. As of yesterday, the government officially cannot pay, and its options at this point look dire. Public debt now stands at 130% of GDP, against the IMF's threshold for sustainability of 40%. To get to that level, Mozambique would have somehow to make almost $9 billion of debt disappear. Thankfully, and despite what the government's advisors say, that does not appear to be a precondition for normalizing relations with the IMF. The presentation the government made to its creditors in London yesterday, with its upbeat assessments of the country's prospects as a gas exporter, is simply asking them to make the same mistake again. Or in the case of Amatum investors who fell for the swap deal in March for the 3rd time. It is an extraordinary debacle. In 2014, Mozambique was a poster child. And I took this 881 days ago, the Africa Rising conference that the IMF held. It was held in Maputo. June 2012, I wrote a piece, Maputo, Boom Town, that was then. Have a look at this photograph of Pemba Island from the sky. They got the most extraordinary beaches. Adesina, the African Development Bank, thanks Korea for backing the high 5 priorities of African Development Bank and putting up $10 billion for Africa. And all parties standing ovation for Fin Min Gordon at the presentation of a medium-term budget was really unprecedented. He looked very chipper. And my conclusion is that the South African President Zuma has finally met his match in Pravin Gordhan. He's squeezing taxpayers to avoid a South African junk rating, but I think he's trying to pull off the impossible. South African all shares up 1.69% this year. Dollar rand 13.92.80. Looks as if it'll go up to 14. Egyptian EGX 30 up 17.86% this year. Nigerian all share down 5.31% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange down 12.68% this year. Uganda shilling has sneaked back to Feb 2016 election levels. This is from Dowdy. The reason being the banking crisis, Crane Bank, where the UBA are being bullish and saying they've got 3 investors lined up. The question is at what price? Atlas Mara is citing an exceptional performance from customer flow. Forex trading helped to push Atlas Mara's total revenue up 15% to $177 million for the first 9 months of 2016. That's a pretty good outcome given what happened with the currencies. I attended a launch yesterday of Betway Kenya, and the main guest was Lord St. John of Blidos from the House of Lords, and he says he knows Steve Wynn. He came to my second wedding last year. That's a pretty good achievement. Caprio, who's the chairman of Betway Kenya, says we live in interesting and transformative times. Doing Business 2017, which is a World Bank report released on Tuesday, showed that Kenya was placed at position 92 out of 190 countries surveyed, with Mauritius and Rwanda outpacing Kenya at 49th and 56th places, respectively. Kenya's standing has improved by 21 places in the latest World Bank Ease of Doing Business report, signaling that a raft of business reforms initiated by the government may be paying off. Nairobi all shares down 6.26% this year. It fell just marginally yesterday, 0.04%. Michael Joseph, who's now been officially appointed chairman of Kenya Airways, said the board is studying the Deloitte audit report in order to make factual corrections and establish the truth. After that, we shall take the appropriate action. Restoring KQ will not happen automatically. We have to look at areas like on-time performance, our debt, pricing, and the destinations we fly to. KQ can be salvaged. It is a great airline with a new fleet. Kenya Airways reported first half loss after tax of 4.783 billion this morning. Revenue was down 3.477%. Direct costs down 5.85%. Fuel derivative costs, thankfully, down substantially because I think they've let some of these hedges roll off finally. Loss before income tax was 4.726 billion versus 11.852 billion last time, so considerable 60% improvement. Loss after tax improved 59.982%, still pretty big, 4.783 billion. Loss per share for the first half was 3 shillings and 20 cents versus 7 shillings and 99 cents last time. Total equity negative position of 38.905 billion. Cash and cash equivalents improved actually to 12.425 billion, up 66.399%. They're saying they recorded an operating profit of 949 million shillings. Passenger numbers grew by 4.2%. Cabin factor was lifted by 3.3%. Operating margin improved by 5.6 percentage points. Definitely an improvement in the trajectory, but the big ticket challenges remain. That is the capital shortfall, negative equity, plus having to get more cash in order to make the business a serious going concern. Kenya Airways has surged to 37.75% this year, closed at a 15-month high yesterday. It'll be interesting to see how it behaves today. NSE 20 down 20.69% this year. The Auditor General jets back from the US after Eurobond probe. I don't think he knows what he's looking for, to be honest. Drought threatens output target of the world's biggest tea exporter, that's us here. Tea production in Kenya, the world's biggest exporter of black variety of leaves, may miss the government's targeted 25% increase this year as an extended dry spell damages the crop. Coffee output will also be hurt. The La Nina weather phenomenon, which causes dryness in Eastern Africa, is replacing the rain-inducing El Nino effect that resulted in heavy rainfall from October to December and helped boost tea output in the Central and Rift Valley growing regions by more than a third in the first 8 months of 2016 from a year earlier. La Nina may cut precipitation in the final 3 months of this year. Tea leaves are becoming dry and falling off. The average African tea price dropped 16% this year to $2.29 per kilogram. Kenya's coffee crop is also being damaged by the drought, according to industry officials. Yesterday, Saharan was the most actively traded share, unchanged at 20. They grew EBITDA, full year EBITDA, 16.681%. Investors will be looking at the tilt versus that at the half year results. Kenya Airways, they're reporting, they reported the first half results this morning. They've rallied 91.3% since the 20th of September. KCB announced yesterday morning, that KCB had lent $120 million through the mobile channel without collateral, using data analytics for screening. Increasingly looks like the future. KCB closed unchanged. Standard Chartered is up 17% total return basis this year. Has done really well. I attended the Kengen investor briefing, I told you about that. Firmed 1.709%, closed at 595. Lots more buyers than sellers. And I think investors will buy into Albert Muga's theory that by foregoing dividends this time round, they're accelerating the growth trajectory, which in turn will pay bigger dividends in the future. So I think that was well received. Once again, thank you for stopping by.